Hello and welcome. This is Politics Today. I am Deji Bademasi and thank you so very much for joining us. Now, politically speaking, the past week has been dominated by reactions to comments made by former head of state and presidential candidate of the CPC in the last general election, Muhammadu Buhari. The former military ruler, while receiving a delegation of his supporters, had predicted dire consequences should the 2015 election be rigged. He addressed the supporters in the Hausa language, and this is the exact translation. It reads, quote, God willing by 2015, I'm quoting General Buhari now, God willing by 2015 something will happen. They either conduct a free and fair election or they go a very disgraceful way. If what happens in 2011 should again happen in 2015, by the grace of God, the dog and the baboon would all be soaked in blood. End of quote. Now, he also said the federal government was the biggest, I should say, Boko Haram, and that the leaders of the country no longer listen to anyone. Of course, the presidency reacted by condemning the statement, with presidential spokesperson Reuben Abati saying it was in bad taste. The PDP also slammed the former head of state, saying he needs to be called to order. But General Buhari's party, the CPC, backed him, saying what the former head of state said is nothing new and that he was only re-echoing what other Nigerians had said in the past. Well, the ACN took the same line, describing attacks. That's the attack now on General Buhari as crude and impudent. The party said the former head of state was only issuing a warning to those who may be planning to rig the 2015 election. In all of this, we should not forget that those elected in the last general election, including President Jonathan, are yet to spend one full year in office. Yet the buzz now is about 2015. Joining me now to discuss this issue further is Dr. Doye Okukpe, a one-time presidential spokesperson. And also joining me is Alhaji Lai Mohammed, who is the National Publicity Secretary of the Action Congress of Nigeria, ACN. And on the line from Abuja is Mr. Rotimi Fashakin, who is a spokesperson of the Congress for Progressive Change, that's CPC. And let me start with you, Mr. Fashakin in Abuja. You issued a statement as well shortly after General Buhari made that statement, and following those criticisms now, you said what General Buhari said was nothing new. But some people have come out and said, well, no time has anyone, called for violence the way General Buhari's statement was interpreted.
Thank you, Deji. Good evening, viewers. I'm really sorry that I'm not present physically, but my voice is as good as my physical presence.
And your voice is loud enough.
Oh, can you hear me?
Very clear. So go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I said my voice is as good as my physical presence.
Good.
Let me do obeisance to the eminent gentlemen on the panel. Let me say clearly that we must understand that elections form the nucleus of democracy. If you remove elections, you have autocracy. If you remove elections from democracy, you have autocracy. And you will know that in the Nigerian state, we have had a challenge with our electoral process for quite a while. For 12 years, General Buhari went through elections under this nation's space in very disputable manner. At each point, at each time, everybody came out bruised because there was no question about it that the people's choice was not allowed to come to pass. Now you now understand.
When you say the people's choice was not allowed to come to pass, it means you're basically saying General Buhari won those elections, but he just was not declared. Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely, absolutely. You take the last election, for instance, 2011, the electoral umpire, Professor Jeda, was not even bold enough to bring all the 19 documents the court told him to bring to court. I was in a forum last year when someone said 2011 was better than 2007 election. And I said, no, you got it wrong. In 2007, Professor Iwu conducted an election in which he gave us electoral register where we had Mike Tyson, George Foreman, Muhammad Ali littering the electoral register. And people used that evidence to go to court and to get justice. But in the case of Jega in 2011, he did not even allow people to use the evidence of the register that he made for the nation. Nobody could get justice through the election that he conducted.
So how do you connect all of this now? All you're saying now, how do you connect that to the statement made by General Buhari? Because some people have said, well, it means General Buhari does not have any faith at all in the judiciary process of this country, and that it's like he is very sure to some extent that 2015 will be rigged.
You know, you see, we often say a proverb in English that the morning shows the day. When you see the weather during the morning, you'll be able to predict to a large extent what the day will look like.
So what weather are you seeing now that you're using to predict 2015?
Look at Edo State now. The Edo elections will be coming up in July. Because of a party's desire, inordinate desire to win at all costs, they have started mounting all forms of subterfuges. If not for the fact that Governor Oshiomhole led, amassed the populace against what PDP in collusion, in wicked collusion with INEC was trying to do in Edo State, don't you know that it will be a different story?
All right.
But because
all right, Mr. Fashakin, let me just ask you to hold on there, and let me allow the guest, I mean your other colleagues here in the studio to react to some of the issues you have raised. Let me come to you, Alhaji Lai Mohammed, the spokesperson of the Action Congress. Shortly after General Buhari made that statement, and then the reactions now that trailed his statement, you issued a statement, and in your statement you said something. I want to read out what you said. You said that specifically you said General Buhari didn't say anything new, that he was only sounding a note of warning, for those planning to rig the 2015 election. Then you said something about the 2011 election. You said, I'm going to read that. You said the 2011 election, that it was the most systematically rigged election in this country. That's a very controversial statement coming from you, considering the fact that, as the PDP pointed out, your party leader, Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, shortly after that election, gave it a pass mark and said, for instance, that President Jonathan clearly won the election.
Absolutely incorrect.
Absolutely
incorrect.
What Bola Tinubu said is not correct.
Yeah. Well, no, what he's saying is not correct.
Okay.
Now, on the 21st of April, 2011, that was 2 days before the presidential election, we issued a statement in which we said exactly the same thing, that the 2011 election was the most systematically rigged in the history of Nigeria elections. So we are not saying for the first time. Secondly, what Bola Ahmed Tinubu said at Chatham House in England was completely different and was taken out of context. What Bola Ahmed Tinubu said in Chatham House in London was that, yes, even before the elections were over, the international observer were already asleep and they went to bed. And this verdict of the international observer has even robbed Nigerians of the opportunity to have genuine electoral reform. He said, probably, if elections are not being rigged, he might probably have won, but elections were rigged.
Let me just, because you talked about, I just want to get what Chief Tinubu, the exact quotes now. Let me just read it. Let me just read it. So, and I want you to react to that. Just hold on. This is it. Now, this is quoting Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, his words now. He said, I believe Jonathan won the election, that to be honest, the opposition did not run a strong enough and sufficiently coordinated campaign with a unifying message, that the opposition believed that public disenchantment with the ruling party, that's the PDP, was enough to get rid of them at the polls. That in retrospect, we made an important strategic mistake that continued to play out and weaken us throughout the campaign, that the major opposition parties began their serious work too late. In the end, the opposition parties danced with each other but did not embrace. Our constant dancing, however, confused the public and partially doused some of the public's enthusiasm.
Right. You see, that's the except. I was at the lecture, and I have the full lecture, and I'm telling you that precisely what he said, especially at the question and answer session, was that yes, Jonathan might have won the election even there was no rigging, but the elections were not free and fair. And I said that my party, the ACN, issued a statement on the 21st of March, of April, even before the governorship election.
And the irony is that your party did not go to court to challenge that election.
Of course.
I mean the presidential election.
No. You see, we went to court to challenge the senatorial elections.
I'm talking about the presidential election specifically.
We had reasons not to go and challenge.
Because the presidential election is what, of course, mainly what President General Buhari would be talking about.
No. So when you talk about 2011 or 2015 election, you're not talking about the presidential election, because if you look at General Buhari's statement, he did not say, if I do not win 2015. He said, if elections are not free and fair. And our own position is very simple, and that why should PDP be worried if somebody says, if elections are rigged in 2015, there will be consequences?
He said there will be blood. I mean, talking about blood,
you see,
and
those are
dogs and baboons.
Those are details.
Soaked in their blood.
Those are details. Now, there will be consequences. Now, is there anybody that can say this is the quantum of violence that will follow election rigging? Any time we've rigged elections in this country, either in the First Republic or Second Republic, or even in the Fourth Republic, there have always been violence.
Okay, let me bring you in here, Dr. Doyin Okukwe. I mean, you've listened to Mr. Fashakin, you've also listened to Mr. To Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Let me get your reaction to all of this.
Deji, the truth is that I am perplexed. I am seriously perplexed. We seem to have a problem in this country. The elites are dishonest. Here, Lai here. I will discuss the whole thing. Lai says election in 2011 were rigged. Which elections in 2011 were rigged? The PDP was in government all over the southwestern states. You won all those states back. Did you rig them? When you say rigging, was it sectional? Was it, somebody, people folded their hands and allowed you to rig the state election, and they held your hand and they rigged presidential election? What kind of talk is that? For us, we painfully lost elections, and we accepted. In Ogun State, we lost the governorship election because we split, and we did not shout and cry that we were rigged out. When I hear things like this, I get really very upset. My younger brother there, who spoke, that did not allow the people's choice, this is how we mislead the public, incite the public, and create disaffection, and, this is the only place where some people expect that, electoral losses or misfortunes should be glorified. Let me tell you, please, let us look at the facts. General Buhari won in the entire of northwestern states. General Buhari won in the entire of northeastern states. Now, you understand my point. Hold on a second. General Buhari did not complain when he went to court about northwestern state, where he scored very heavily. He did not complain about the northeastern states, where he won heavily. He did not even complain about the north central, where, it was fairly balanced. Do you understand my point? Now, ACN did not complain about the southwest, where they won. Now, General Buhari's main complaint was that the southeast and the south-south, there was overvoting. and that, the voters turnout was close to 90%, and, figures that they felt that, did not, was not repeated elsewhere in the country. I don't want to take anything off from that. By that acceptance in itself, there are 6 zones in the country. If you accept election results in 4 zones out of 6, that is 67%. And in a country like Nigeria, a developing country like Nigeria, let me finish. In a country like Nigeria, a developing nation like Nigeria, if that is the only thing we recorded, 67%, free and fair, it is fair. But listen to me, like, President Goodluck Jonathan scored a total of 22 million votes. General Buhari scored a total of 12 million votes. The total votes cast for Goodluck Jonathan in the southeast that we are complaining about is about 4.7 million votes. The total votes cast for Jonathan in the south, where he hails from, where they're happy they have a son that is running for election, came to about 6.something million. Now, Bayelsa has about 500,000, Edo is about 500,000. You could not say that somebody rigged the election against Buhari in Edo State, for instance, because ACN was in control. Do you understand my point? If you remove the votes of I want to tell you
the South and the Southeast.
Remove the vote of South and Southeast, leaving only Bayelsa and Edo State, you will get about 9.8 million votes. Subtract that from Jonathan's vote. Jonathan is still defeating Buhari. So how can you, no, hold on, sir. Okay. How can you now, claim that the person who ought to vote, you don't need much of what I'm saying. I'm saying remove the entire of Jonathan's vote in the Southeast. Remove the entire of Jonathan's votes in the South, except for Bayelsa, where he hails from, and Edo State. Jonathan is still winning with over 400 votes. Now let's come to what Buhari said. I also believe that because of our peculiar history, people have risen to very high levels in this country without our checking their backgrounds and their records and pedigree. That's the truth. Because you see, there are certain things that are statesmanly, there are certain things that are unstatesmanly. And Lai and I are contemporaries. You cannot endorse evil. Has Nigeria not suffered enough violence? Why? There are two things Buhari is noted for. No. It's violence and religious bigotry. Buhari consistently campaigns on 2 things: religious something or violence. Listen to me. If an election is yet to come, election has not come. We have only spent 1 year.
We're going to get to that, but let me.
All right. Why bring blood?
We
from Boko Haram.
We definitely will get to that.
Enough blood.
We'll get to that. I'm coming to you, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. I'm coming to you. I just want Mr. Fashakin to react to some of the points now that Dr. Okukwe has raised. For instance, issues about General Buhari, and then Mr. Fashakin, remember you once said General Buhari won the election, for instance, in 2007. He wasn't given. He probably won in 2003 as well, and he wasn't given. But I just want you to react to some of the issues now Dr. Okukwe has raised.
Thank you, Deji. I think from where Dr. Okukwe is sitting, he knows that he's very, very economical with the truth, and that he's not doing the best for posterity and for Nigerians that are listening to him. I want to say, first of all, that, the 2011 election, before the election came to be, the government of the day had made systematic preparation for the eventual rigging of the election. You will recall that this day newspaper conducted a polling, in which they gave 60% to Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, 50% victory. And I remember John Campbell, the former American ambassador, raised objection about some of those dubious polling that are often done.
Why do we find faults with our own polling here? But when these polls are done abroad, nobody finds faults with them.
And what is polling?
The polling, I mean, that was polling before election.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But the election was held. Ask
No,
him,
let's
comment on the figures
let's
I gave.
hear him out.
Comment on the facts
Let's hear him
that I
out.
raised.
Go on,
You're
Mr.
gonna oppose
Fashakin.
him.
Please, when I get interjected, my train of thought,
Sorry.
I'm so sorry about that, but go on. Just go on.
because I'm talking on the phone, so it's so difficult to be able to get the reaction. Anyway, now the final result that came was that 57% was given to Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, which actually confirmed the fears of Mr. John Campbell. And for that, the government vilified Mr. Campbell, and it was not given visa. Now, you will see clearly.
Can I just ask you a question, Mr. Fashakin? No, excuse me. Mr. Fashakin, can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Are you now saying that Mr. Campbell's word should have been taken seriously? That the outcome of that poll was dubious, and Mr. Campbell's statement was the correct statement?
Mr. Campbell's statement was the correct statement because
How? Why?
It has turned out
Because he's an American. Because he's an American.
Excuse, just go on.
Dr. Okupe, I think you should be civil. You don't need to interject like that. It's very uncivil.
Sorry.
Just listen, okay?
Sorry.
Just go on, please.
Interjected you when you were talking.
Sorry.
Please.
Go on.
Now,
Dr. Okupe, let him talk.
Mr. Campbell's opinion has been really confirmed. His fears have been confirmed by what happened afterwards. Now, let's come back to electoral violence. You see, for quite some time now in this nation, people that wanted the government of the day to look favorably to it, had always preyed on Buhari. Anything Buhari said, they will go ahead and give it the kind of slant that they wanted. It was the same thing that Dr. Ruben Abati did on April 22 when he wrote inter alia that General Buhari told the supporters all through the electioneering campaign to roast anybody who rigged the election. And so when there was electoral violence and post-electoral violence, he wrote in his piece, in his Guardian piece on April 22, that it was exactly what Buhari said that came to pass.
Can I just cut in here? I'm sorry to interject, yes. But let me just ask you this: don't you think, for instance, that when people make a statement, like for instance some of the statements made by General Buhari, of course, the intention might be different, and I would understand that because, for instance, I'm educated, and that a number of people too who are educated would understand that. But that the majority of people who are illiterate, and of course who would be going out to vote, would just take these words now literally and just give it a kind of literal translation, and then just they react based on what they hear.
Let me tell you something. We have had a parallel in the history of this nation. In 1983, you see, let me tell you, it was Professor Wole Soyinka who once said it. He said electoral violence, manipulation is a violence against a people. And that the people reserve the right to meet that violence with even greater violence. Look at what happened in 1983 in Ondo State, in Akure in 1983. I am from Akure, Ondo State. About less than 30 minutes after the election was announced that Omobori had won, the people poured onto the streets,
all right.
And they vented their hands against that decision.
I get your point now. Let me just pause you for a while. I'll come back to you, and let me.
I want to ask a question.
No, please.
So
just hold on. Okay. Let me ask you, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. I mean, quite interesting. Some of the points raised by Mr. Fashakin. How do we explain this kind of situation, where, for instance, after the presidential election, we saw violence in just a section of the country? The violence was not widespread. We didn't see violence in other parts of the country. So could we say there is a possibility that the election was only rigged in a section of the country and wasn't rigged in another section of the country?
You see, I think we are standing facts on its head. You see, let's take the whole history of election in Nigeria. Elections have been rigged from 1999 to 2011.
By all the parties?
No. By all the, look, I'm saying that it's always the federal government that's always in charge of conducting elections.
What about the local elections?
No. We are talking about House of
elections are
Assembly.
elections.
Look, you see, Dr.
let him
There's some form of decorum in this kind of discussion. Please, you see, you'll have your own feeling.
All right.
Now, when President Yar'Adua came to power in 2007, he admitted openly that the election that brought him to power was flawed.
Of course.
Yes.
And based on that, he set up a panel, a commission to look into electoral reform. So for anybody to say that elections have never been rigged is totally incorrect.
Nobody said that.
Just hold on. Now,
said that.
what
Actually,
has
nobody said that.
Listen,
Just
what
go
did
Let's hear
Buhari say? We are looking at the message
Yeah.
is different from the messenger. Buhari said, if elections are rigged in 2015, there will be violence, there will be bloodshed.
Yeah, he said, I want you to use those words.
He
that
does, look,
baboons and...
But look,
and-
whether they're
yeah.
baboons or dogs,
Dogs,
or
yeah,
they'll
will
be
soak
soaked
in
in
their
Who are
blood,
the baboons? Who are the dogs?
it's absolutely irrelevant. You see, there will be consequences.
But can I ask you? I'm
Listen,
sorry.
that's
Can I ask you this
Yes.
question? I'm looking at the audience now that General Buhari was speaking to. These were his supporters who came to pay him a courtesy visit, and of course, among those supporters, do not forget, you have people who are not educated, who just would not understand what he probably meant. Maybe he was not actually advocating violence, but there are people who would just take this thing literally that way and then act on those words.
Would they act on it immediately, or they will act on it in 2015, or would they act on it if elections were free and fair? You see, let's be sentimental and don't let's blackmail, this man. He says if elections are rigged in 2015, there will be bloodshed. And we all know that everywhere in the world where elections have been rigged, there have been bloodshed. What I would have expected PDP to do is that, look, wait a minute, elections will not be rigged. Now, we have left the message, it's the messenger we are attacking, and issues like, oh, he's a serial loser, is this and that. That's not the issue. If Buhari is a serial, a loser, and like David White said, then PDP is a serial rigger also. Now, let's look at the issue. Can we have a free and fair election or not? Do we need a free and fair election or not? If elections are free and fair, would there be violence? If they are not free and fair, wouldn't there be violence? Now, as to the issue of whether electoral violence is localized or not, in the history of this country and anywhere in the world, it is those people who feel most cheated that will start electoral violence. It happened in the Western region in 1965, which led to the first coup, indirectly. It happened in those states in 1983. Now, what we politicians should do, we should resolve that we will do everything possible to ensure that elections are free and fair.
So in this
if
case,
elections are not free and fair,
in this case,
nobody can predict the consequences. But incidentally, you see, we have about 4 elections in this country. Elections into local government, which are generally state affairs. Then you have elections to House of Assembly, Rep, Senate, and governorship and presidential election. And when people actually talk about elections being rigged and the violence at the kind of level we're talking about elections conducted by the Electoral Commission. We must, whether you're in PDP, ACN, or CPC, resolve today that we must bring about electoral reforms that will make elections seem to even the ordinary person to be free and fair. That's the only way we can avoid.
I'm still going to ask you to define, free and fair election. What would be free and fair election to you? But just before I come to that, let's get your thoughts on all of this, Dr. Cooper.
DG, what I would love for you to ask Fashakin is this: where was General Buhari expected to win that he didn't win? Do you understand? Which states was he expecting to win that they rigged against him? Was it in Enugu? was it, excuse me, let me finish.
Yeah, let him
Let me
finish.
finish.
Just sit back.
You understand? So, and then, like, you're anxious to speak.
No, because you said that question,
you are not
we should
even
be
in a
addressed.
position to discuss election rigging, because the last election in Lagos, the local government election in Lagos, I watched your program. They were blatantly rigged. Results were announced in Badagry. Somebody was said to have won. You canceled the election. The election officer came on.
He just said all the parties need
No,
to resolve.
he didn't say that. So the point is that
Listen,
let me
it does
finish.
not
Let
lie
me
in the
finish.
mouth of PDP
Let me
to
finish.
call any
Now,
party
you have to allow me to
No.
finish.
Just hold on.
Yes.
Let him
So
finish.
my point is that we cannot develop this attitude that where you lose, they rigged you. Where you win, nobody rigged. If Jonathan was a desperate man, would he be sitting down in Aso Rock and allow a major section of this country, the entire Southwest, to be taken away leisurely like that?
What has Uri have done?
Excuse me?
What has Uri have done?
So, okay, now, if nobody
When people threw you out because you are incompetent?
if people could throw us out, all right, and they were, and we were thrown like that. So, where was it that people, were supposed to have been thrown out? Was it in the Eastern region?
Look, in Akwa Ibom, we won outright. In Bedo, we won outright.
In your mind.
But you lost those cases.
In your
Exactly.
mind.
So
you won in your
don't
mind.
say that.
Let me tell you the scenario.
Let me tell you
the scenario. The game that CPC and Buhari are playing is very easy and understandable. General Buhari has contested elections several times. He has lost. Most people are not even expecting him to run again. Let me finish. You would remember that
he said so that he would.
Understand. And you remember that last time when he was giving like a validity speech, he even broke down into tears and was crying and was very emotional. Yes. All right. So this case is this. If I cannot get it, then I will destroy it. You prime the society. No. Listen to me. No. I have to make this point. The point is this: you cannot build something on fallacy. You say that if they rig the election as they rigged in 2011, that is assuming that election was rigged in 2011.
It was.
I do not believe and I do not agree. Elections cannot be free and fair, 100% everywhere. In the United States, George Bush, when he came for that first term, and his brother did something in Florida, that was pure rigging. Al Gore did not go to town and say they should kill everybody in Florida. And I don't know whether you have read Richard Nixon's memoirs. Richard Nixon, when he contested the first time, and that is where statesmen are. Not this type of thing we do here. Richard Nixon lost election against John F. Kennedy. And I must finish. And later on, they now found out that there was massive rigging in certain areas. And they went, his people went and gave it to him. He wrote this, you can check it. It is in his book. He said, what should I do with this? They said, no, let's go to Tribunal. I said, no. He said, you want me to go to Tribunal and for me to get a judgment that the foremost democracy in the world has conducted an election and it is faulty. He said, I will not do it. I am aspiring to be president. Why? And he still came back. You see, you want to pull down and desecrate
let me bring in Mr.
that you don't have.
Mr. Fashakin.
Yes, absolutely.
Mr. Fashakin, I want you to confirm this. Could we say this is a clear indication? I mean, taking General Buhari's statement now into account, could we say that's the clearest indication yet that we might see the general run in 2015?
Well, the general has not told anybody categorically that he will be running 2015. Let me first clarify something. General Buhari was speaking in Hausa. Well, he spoke in English first, and then he spoke in Hausa. I think the one that he spoke in Hausa was where that people have.
So there might have been some problems with the translation.
That's the one on that he said, Kale Guinea, that's baboon, blood and fighting themselves. Now, let's understand this. That is a classical Hausa idiom. In Yoruba land, and I'm happy that the eminent gentlemen on that panel are Yoruba people. This is something that mothers usually use, They say to their child and say, look, today because of what you are doing, you and I, we are going to put ourselves in the same trousers. Does that mean that they are going to sew a single trousers for themselves? When you move out in the morning and you say, it is raining cats and dogs today, does it mean that cats and dogs are physically raining down? You see, in my secondary school, we define idiom as a phrase that you cannot get the exact meaning by piecing together the individual words that form the phrase. I think people are being cheeky and being very economical with the truth. And I'm sorry that Dr. Okupe is in that category. You know, we cannot try to politicize the life of a nation, you know, because you want to touch political points and just come around and just deceive, you know, with delusional statements and post-turning, you know.
But can I ask you this? Let me just ask you this, and sorry to cut you.
Yes.
Don't you think it's too early to even be talking about 2015, especially when those who are in power now have not done even up to a year?
Who started the campaign for 2015 first? It was Dr. Goodluck Jonathan. He was the one that told all who cared, even before he was sworn in. Before he was sworn in, he had started putting the idea of extending his term. Can you believe that in Senate lines, you know, presidents that are sworn, that are elected for a 4-year term, do not come in to start talking about, you know, giving themselves 7-year term. So you see, that is where the dishonesty started from. And you recall that Asari Dokubo had already told all who care to listen that if Jonathan is not allowed to run a second term, that the country will be ungovernable. What did Jonathan do at that time? What did the likes of Okupe do at that time?
All right.
Quiet.
Let me still hold on, please. We're going to come back to you. Alhaji Lai Mohammed, I still have to ask you that question. Is it not too early in the day to be talking about 2015?
No. You see, in the sense that in politics,
first term, not up to 12 months.
You see, in politics, there's no stopgap. And if I probably don't win election this year, I'm working towards winning election, you know, next year or 2, 3, or 4 years' time. But you see, what is significant is that the 12 months of President Jonathan looks to Nigerians as if it's actually 4 years already. Because,
really?
Yes, because it has been so packed with crises, bad policies.
Crises that are not the creation of the president, of
course. Look, the first controversy was the issue of tenure allocation. Of course, that was Mr. President's own baby. The issue of removal of fuel subsidy was a government policy that, you know, went awry. And then the fact that the government seems to be clueless and have lack capacity to tackle the myriad of problems. And incidentally, all along, in the last 1 year, Mr. President has, I would say the PDP and the presidency, they've conducted themselves as if Mr. President is actually president of one section of the country or another section of the country. And by today, people are wondering that the presidency, rather than concentrate efforts on issues facing the country, is distracted on issues such as, you know, tenure allegation. Is it going to run in 2015 or not? At a point in time, he had to come out 2 weeks ago to say that, look, nobody should talk about 2015. And as he was saying it, his presidential aides are also saying that, no, he will run in 2015. His kinsmen are saying that it's either him, 2015, it's either him.
Which of his presidential aide actually said he
No, I think a few of his, advisors. I wouldn't know which one in particular. Now, but you see, I want to take Dr. Okupe on. You see, this kind of mathematics, you said they did not rig in one state, they rigged in another state.
I didn't say so.
No. You know what you said?
I did not say
you
so.
Said,
I talked about overvoting
Just let him finish. Let him just finish.
Look,
you would have your time, Dr.
I'll quote you. You said, if Buhari did not complain, Overvoting is a form of rigging. You know, of course, yes. What is rigging? If overvoting is not rigging.
Just go on,
Now,
go on.
You see, in elections, in voting, it's like you have oranges. If you squeeze oranges into a glass, and you squeeze 10 oranges into a glass, and 2 of the oranges are bad, it contaminates the entire 8.
Can I ask you a question? Can I ask you a question, Alhaji Lai
yes,
Mohammed?
yeah.
Do you think the PDP rigged in the Southwest? Fairly, I mean, the presidential election.
Yes,
Would you,
yes,
they
yes,
rigged?
absolutely, yes.
So the PDP outsmarted you.
And I'll tell you how.
No,
the presidential election, yes.
Yeah,
yes.
but
I'll tell
the
you,
governorship was not rigged.
Listen, they rigged it. I'll tell you why. No, you see, I'm not just making statements that I cannot.
I understand. I'm just saying.
Listen,
so Buhari will have won in the Southwest.
What about Buhari? No. We also had a candidate. Don't forget that.
They had a candidate.
Where the candidate there?
I get your point. Fact is, the PDP rigged the presidential election, but the PDP did not rig the governorship election.
They tried to rig. No, they tried to rig.
But you know, you are strong enough to stop us from governor.
Listen, you see, let me tell you.
I'll pause you here.
Deji, no, you see, this is not a laughing matter.
It is a laughing matter.
It's not.
You are making it laughable because
I'll tell you
what
why.
they're saying does not make sense.
Dr. Kuka,
You're making it
just
laughable.
hold on, but we're running out of time. We just have to round up on
It's the
this.
same, you see, it is the same commission that runs both presidential and governorship election. And I want to refer you to ACN statement on the 21st of April 2011, just before the governorship election. We warned that if PDP tries to do the rigging a date in the presidential election, that it will not find it funny.
So
it is on record.
We could just say the ACN took the governorship election more seriously than the presidential election.
No.
They frightened PDP.
What? See, what happened was that we were caught unawares in the presidential election, and we did warn, and we took precautions to ensure that what took place, because you see, the tendency was for them to say, oh, look at the bandwagon effect.
It's
because PDP won the Southwest
let him come in very
so
quickly,
they win the
Dr.
governorship election.
You are a member of the ACN, correct? You are a member of the ACN.
He's a national
is that in
secretary
doubt?
of the ACN.
Who is the leader of ACN?
CPC Akande.
Who is the national leader?
CPC Akande.
What role is it? Bola Ahmed Tinubu.
He's a national leader of the party.
He's a national leader of the party.
Yeah.
Okay, very good. You must be smarter than him.
How?
And you probably know more than him.
Why?
Or know more politics than him. If Bola Ahmed Tinubu said that they, the opposition, that did not get their act together.
You take it out of
Listen,
context.
it's out of context. Let me finish.
Yes.
Hold on,
It's either in fact, you should not take up the leadership because you are smarter than the gentleman.
You are being
if he
cheeky.
went to London,
Yes.
all right, to Charterhouse, where there are international journalists,
Yes.
and a man like Bola Ahmed Tinubu stands up on the podium and says that we, the opposition, made fundamental error.
Does that exclude rigging?
Hold on a minute.
So even if you made listen, does the fact that the opposition has made errors, does that mean that they did not rig?
I did not.
What are you talking about?
Let him just finish so that we can end this very quickly. Yeah, just go on.
Deji, there's something that the French people call noblesse oblige.
Oblige. Yes.
Obligation of nobility.
Yes, what is it?
You see, you cannot take rulership, leadership, and not take what comes with it. Leadership comes with obligation.
Yes.
When a person if the president walks into this room today, I will get up. I'm older than him.
I will also.
I will get up. So why are we getting up? It's
because of the office.
It's because of the office.
Yes.
So that office, takes some obligation. When a person like Buhari, General Buhari, who has been a former head of state, an elder statesman, a very respectable person, all right, with all the respects that were cut to him, there are certain obligations that comes with that respect. There are certain things you do not expect from a man like that. He cannot call for bloodshed.
He did not call for bloodshed.
It does not matter for whatever.
He said if you rig, there'll be bloodshed.
When there was no rigging, he was never rigged out. The man was never rigged out. And that was why he was crying on television that he had made a colossal mistake.
All right. I just have to let's get a final word from you, Mr. Fashakin, and this is the question I'm going to ask you. Your party, of course, and you have said severally that this election, the last election was rigged. But can I ask you this? Where was the election rigged? In the north of the country or the south?
Everywhere.
All the places.
That is true.
So including the places that
Well, we won, yes.
you won.
Yes.
Let me explain this to you.
Okay.
Let me make you understand it. You see, in the Nigerian Constitution makes it mandatory that anybody that wants that is to win the presidential election must win the majority of the votes cast.
In
And then
2/3.
25% of the 2/3 of the states of the
Federation, yeah.
So it is not just enough for a man to aspire to have the majority of the vote, but he must have the spread too. The people who did the campaign for President Goodluck Jonathan, they knew that there are 19 states in the north and 17 in the south. So he needed 25% in at least 24 states to be able to win the elections on the fourth ballot. Dr. Cooper knows that he's trying to be economical with the truth. He knows that they propped up the figures for Dr. Goodluck Jonathan in the northern states, and that was what precipitated the reaction of the people spontaneously, because they knew that Dr. Goodluck Jonathan could not muster 25% in 90% of the states of the north.
Can I ask you a question? What about those figures that you got? The figures that you got in those northern states, nothing, they were genuine figures.
The figures that we got, look, let me tell you, you see, you can only read in the present day that we have, you can only read
Where
when
you are strong.
have the machinery of government. When you have the machinery of government, CPC was a totally new party. We did not even have a councillor when we were going into the election. So what did we have going for us?
But can't we say that actually played against your party?
No structures, no council.
No, let him finish. No, let him finish, please. Mr. Fashakin, excuse me, Dr. Cooper, just let him finish, please. Just hold on. Mr. Fashakin, you don't think that is what played against your party?
Exactly.
I'm trying to understand Dr. Cooper.
No, this is what he's saying, and that's the question I'm actually asking you. And that's the question I actually asked you right from, right from when you raised that issue. You said your party is a new party, and that when you went into this election, you never had even a councillor anywhere. And I am asking you now. I'm coming, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. I'll come back to you. I'm asking you. You don't think that is what actually worked against your party? Because, I mean, politically speaking, you just did not have the structure on ground to work for you across the country.
And you don't even campaign.
What do you mean? What do you mean by structure on ground?
No, that's what I'm saying. I'm saying you didn't have a council. You just said so, that you never had a councilor anywhere at all.
That's a question.
No.
What was the structure that PDP had on ground in 1999 when they won election?
I'm coming. Let's listen to Mr. Fashakin. Please go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Deji. When I said we were a new party, totally new party.
Good, correct.
It is not to say that. You see, it is only in Nigeria that when they say you have a structure on ground, what is the structure? You know, it is the people that go to vote.
Yes.
If you have a free and fair election, and the people love, the man to be voted for, the structure on ground, whether you have mounted a well-entrenched structure for 30 years, it is totally immaterial. But it is because in our climb, in our own peculiar climb, we have come to understand that it is when you have you have enough money to get the security agency to rig the election for you. That is when you only win the election.
Just let
That
him
is the
finish.
truth.
All right, I quite appreciate what you've just said. I have to thank you, and I think it's at this point I'll have to let you go. But let me just give you, perhaps, let's just say 60 seconds now. You have anything else you want to say?
Well, I want us to show a great deal of love and loyalty to this country. It serves us no good, when we deliberately deal in mendacity. We want to obfuscate the issue with a view to scoring political points. General Buhari is an ordained officer gentleman. He's an astute politician and a very civil Nigerian. He does not trade in civil words. Ruben Abasi, is already in court with us because General Buhari has sued him, for defamation for what he wrote.
All right.
And he's been trying to be dodgy about it. So
All right,
I want people to show responsibility in the way they slant whatever General Buhari says.
All right. I just hope Mr. Abati would not dodge it, because you also had your own case in court and you faced it squarely, and it was properly dealt with. And the issue of contempt now, and of course the court allowed you to go. I want to thank you very much for your contributions. I just have to let you go here. But very quickly, if General Buhari were to indicate interest, would your party be willing to give him the ticket to run for 2015?
Let me tell you, 95% of those of us in CPC, in fact, 100% of all of us in CPC, we are in CPC because of General Buhari.
All right, I get your point.
I am from Southwest, you know that.
Sure, I know.
I'm from Southwest. So
all right. I get your point. I really get your point. Thank you very much, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Let me just give you a couple of seconds now to round off.
Well, PDP or whosoever should make sure, I tell the federal government, that the next elections are free and fair. If they're not free and fair,
as free and fair as 2011.
No, free and fair. 2011 is you see
those international observers were dead wrong.
Absolutely, we were on the ground and we knew what happened. You see, if elections are not free and fair, believe me, the consequences cannot be predicted. And we've had it in Nigeria before, and it led to the very first military coup in this country. We had it in 1983, it led to another coup. We had annulment, which is again a form of election rigging. We know where it led us. So for General Buhari or anybody to say that there will be consequences, I don't think that should be what should attract, so much,
we should just try to get it right.
There is the issue of, they say, there's so much bombing here, there's bloodshed here. Please don't blackmail us. There's absolutely no nexus between the Boko Haram and what we're talking about. The Boko Haram issue was not an offshoot of election malpractice. No. It was a local reaction to perceived injustice and perceived poverty in a particular area. It was the way it was managed by the government that led it to become, almost uncontrollable. Now, I still insist that whoever is in charge of, election, make sure that elections are free and fair. And all of us as politicians, we have an obligation, we have a duty to ensure that there's there's enough electoral reform that will guarantee a free and fair election. If there's a free and fair election, nobody's going to complain.
Thank you, sir. In closing, what I want to say is this. The CPC should spend some time and its energy in organizing itself. The CPC is a badly organized party, very ill-funded, and is only surrounded, the only prime mover in CPC is General Buhari. The gentleman spoke the truth. He said they didn't even have anything. All they had was a councillor. When you're talking about structures and all that, they did not understand. You have to carry your message to people. Where did General Buhari go during the campaign? General Buhari, when he went to Edo State, he came down from the plane, went to the Oba's palace, greeted the Oba, came back to the airport, and flew out. Look, ditto for so many places. Jonathan campaigned almost apart from every state, we went about 2 or 3 times. Let me finish. He went.
You had your time. You had your time.
They had national resources to campaign everywhere.
You had
So
your time.
that was be said.
You had your
Jonathan
time.
went
Presidential
everywhere.
fleet.
Mitt Romney in America is not perhaps the best of the Republican candidates. But people believed in him, and they gave him more money. And he uses his money.
Are the governors too not using state resources
I
to
don't know
campaign?
resources. What about Lagos? No, but you're taking my time now.
I'm sorry.
You're taking my time.
Yeah,
You're
please,
taking my
and I
time.
have to let you. Yeah, please round up because we have to end now.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for the opposition. And I believe that, you see, we cannot make progress without a sound and robust opposition. But what these guys need to do is not what they're doing. Because you lose an election, your next bit is prepare for the next one. I expect Lai Mohammed to take on, PDP and government on issue of fuel subsidy. What is the alternative? On issue of transportation.
We've not done that.
Come up with your own, you're supposed to be alternate government.
Always come up
You
with
come
something
up.
we've never listened to.
All I read about
Okay,
you
listen,
is to
subsidy.
say that we're going, if you read,
No.
we will kill somebody.
No.
If you do something,
ACN
we
said
will
we'll kill
blood
somebody.
What is the difference? If you are supporting them now, what's the
No.
difference?
We are supporting
You are
them that
All right.
if there is
Gentlemen.
rigging, there will be violence.
So you will kill people if there's rigging now. You will kill your brother.
You want to rig?
Why should I rig? Why should I rig?
Don't rig, there will be no
We have never
violence.
rigged.
All right, gentlemen.
We have never rigged.
Thank you very
We have
much.
never
We are
rigged.
rigged in the history of this
We have
country.
never rigged.
No party has ever rigged like you. Your brand of honor is rigging.
But excuse me,
Jonathan
when you say
spent
no
a
party
lot
has
of
ever rigged,
effort. Jonathan spent a lot of effort to bring in a gentleman, a good man,
It's
that
okay.
the whole nation
It's okay,
applauded.
please.
Who's that
To
gentleman?
head INEC. All of a sudden, he lost the election now. The guy is
Listen,
not a good
from
man.
day one,
All right,
we-
gentlemen,
from day one, we
it's okay.
said INEC,
Angel
the way
is not
it
coming
was-
to conduct election. in
Alhaji Lai
Nigeria.
Mohammed, thank you very much for coming on the
Thank
program.
you.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for your contributions. Thank you very much, Dr. Doyo Kukwe, for your contributions. Thank you. Yeah, of course. I mean, it's politics. At the end of the day, we're still Nigerians. And of course, you would still be brothers. Thank you very much for coming on the program. And to Mr. Rotimi Fashakin, who joined us on the line from Abuja, thank you very much for your contributions. Unfortunately, we couldn't take a break today. That's just how hot the topic was. And we're back again next week. I'm Deji Bademasi. See you then.